Right here.
How has the law in California affected your clinic?
Thanks for asking. How did the law in California affect my clinic? Well, luckily we have it on appeal. We have it on appeal because we are being defended by, I don't remember who. So it's funny when you don't have to pay for it, you don't remember, you know? Herbie Solomon, yeah, that's right. No, Liberty Counsel, and they're doing it free, and they're doing a great job. And it's on appeal, and in New Jersey it's on appeal. Let me give you an example of how timid and how wimpy my profession is. When this was up for debate, in New Jersey, Governor Christie said, "I'm going to sign this bill because I believe gays are born this way." Genius, right? Yeah. Okay. So we, NARTH is a professional association, a professional mental health association. So we write a letter to the New Jersey Psychological Association from one professional group to another. We say, look, New Jersey Psychological Association, number one, in your bylaws you say it's your responsibility to educate the public and to correct against misinformation. Number one. Number two, your governor said that he is signing this bill because he believes people are born this way, and we know there is no evidence for people born this way, and we sent them a pound of documentation. Three, you have a responsibility to correct the governor. What did they do? Nothing. Nothing. So we write another letter. Nothing. We're ignored. We're simply ignored. You know, it's amazing. We always wanted a good debate with the American Psychological Association. We're dying for a good debate. I remember when I wrote my first book, I did 350 footnotes. 350. My wife and I were going crazy. Make sure, was that Freud 1902? Make sure it's the right page. We thought we were going to be attacked. They never challenge us. They just ignore us. That's what we're dealing with.
Right here.
Kind of piggybacking on your question, and maybe you can help me out. It was a statement you made, and then how can we help? You can't be Christian and be gay.
Right.
But you only Christian and homosexual?
Yeah. Assuming the homosexual does not accept his homosexuality. In other words, when I say the homosexual, I'm assuming, and it's just an assumption, that he has these attractions, he has these feelings, but he doesn't want to accept it. It's not part of his identity. And that is a Christian, fine. Like we all have struggles, we all have sins, we all have challenges, of course. And that's just a different, one of many. So that's but gay is different. Gay is assuming this is who I am. This is normal and natural for me. I am gay. And that's a world of difference. But it's such a subtle change that people don't even notice it.
So it's the difference between the church that's accepting versus the church that's accepting and affirming. I'm going to accept you, I'm going to embrace you as a child. Sure. But
we don't accept your gay identity. We do not accept that your same-sex attraction is normal and natural and part of God's design. It's contrary to the natural law, simply. I mean, biblically, there's a foundation, but as a Catholic, not only biblically, but even the teachings of the church have consistently rejected homosexuality. All the great religious traditions, we're not talking about Christianity, all the great religious traditions have always rejected homosexuality. All the cultures in Western civilization have never seen homosexuality as equal to heterosexuality. Only now, for the first time, we have gay marriage. This is the first culture to accept gay as normal and natural. We're going to see what happens. I mean, sometimes people don't recognize the revolution that's happening right there. So they can look at a revolution 5 years, 10 years down, but when it's happening, we're oblivious. But this is what's happening. Okay.
Amanda.
Well, kind of piggybacking on what they said, I think there's probably a lot of us in here that are part of the church that would love to help, like a laity, unlike yourself, But at this level, is there a curriculum, or how would you advocate for the church to equip their parents and even the children at the various age levels? Like, how can we help them?
I think we have this church is a great example of an active ministry. There's a great ministry here. Get involved with the ministry. These guys are reaching out and helping and educating from a Christian perspective. It's a beautiful ministry from what I've seen so far. It's one of the most dynamic and well-run Christian ministries for homosexuality than I've ever seen. Really. Then again, I haven't been around much. No. Sorry. No. Don't say piggyback again. This must be the Midwest. No.
What would you say to a new mom and dad who approach you with their new baby boy? What would be your top 2 things to tell the mom and your top 2 things to tell the dad to help them prevent same-sex identity?
Sure.
And would you do it for the baby girl?
Yeah. Well, basically, I would say respect the gender. If it's a boy, see him as a boy. Don't see him as a neuter. See him as a boy. These messages are amazing. The disapproval, the mother's disapproval of the boy's masculinity is conveyed non-verbally. Let me give you an example. I was working with a man about 30 years old in therapy with me. Finally, after 3 years of therapy, he goes on his first date, Saturday night. So Sunday morning, the phone rings. It's his mother. Tony, where were you? I called you last night. You weren't home. It's like the guy has to be home, right? As we used to say, watching Lawrence Welk, right? Okay. Well, he said proudly, well, Mom, I went on a date. And the mother said, oh. Just the way she said, oh, collapse, deflation. Oh, like, oh, really? Instead of, oh, it's oh. Just the tone, he knew Mommy's disapproval. And that's the subtle things that we're dealing with here. So to get back to your question, make the boy feel like a boy, make the girl feel like a girl. In the infancy, of course, the early attachment to the mother. But about 1.5 to 3 years old, the boy starts to make the transition. Mother step back, dad get involved. And I have found that the mothers are more likely to be cooperative than the fathers. It's the mothers that bring the boys to therapy. It's the mothers who are ready to read the books and do all the work. It's the fathers that are, oh yeah, but they don't do it. They don't do it. Okay.
Right here.
Oh, by the way, I said in 1991 in my first book, fathers of homosexuals had poor relationships with their fathers, and I've never seen an exception to that. Yeah.
What do you recommend for single mothers?
Yeah, for single mothers, now for a boy, again, if it's an infant, but once you get to about 3 years old or something, you want to get a father figure, an uncle, maybe your brother, maybe your father, a coach, some guy that can take this boy and really make him feel good. Because mothers cannot do it. Men make men out of boys. Mothers make babies, but men make the babies into boys, and you can't do it. So you want to get some salient guy who makes your son really feel good about being a boy. Yeah.
Right here.
What do you say to the 2% of the population that's gay? The 98% of the population is not struggling with same-sex attractions.
Right. Right.
How come they are so successful at their heterosexuality?
Well, when you say that, that's exactly the point. This is why I say to be gay is to be anti-intellectual. No, think about it. Because to be gay, you have to not ask why. Now, these guys tell me, if I'm sitting around with my gay friends and we're talking and you never say, hey guys, excuse me, why are we gay? That's a party poop. You're going to kill the party. You do not ask. So you just assume. I'm gay because I'm gay. Because I did a radio show in preparation for this, this conference. They wanted me to do a radio show. And one guy called in and said, well, when did you decide to be heterosexual? Well, I didn't decide to be heterosexual. My body was designed to be heterosexual. I didn't make a choice. I just kind of followed it along. But something has to knock you off kilter. It's been almost 40 years since the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association normalized homosexuality. But in those 40 years, not one respectable model of child development has been proposed that is normal and natural and ends in homosexuality. The fact remains, if you traumatize a child in a certain way, he will be homosexual. If you do not traumatize a child, he'll be heterosexual. So to be gay, you're not supposed to ask why. Because you have to keep the myth going.
Can I just comment on that? Van Ardweg.
Van den Ardweg, sure.
The Battle for Normalcy.
Sure.
And he says, every person on the planet has an overbearing mother, for lack of a better term, and a distant father.
Yeah.
And the difference was peer relationships.
Well, that's where we differ. I know Van den Ardweg very well. We spent time together talking. He's Catholic. Are you Catholic? No, he's Catholic. It's a circle. Anybody who mentions Van den Ardweg has to be Catholic. The book was given to you by a Catholic, no doubt. It's a small circle.
I like the idea. Can you just say?
Yeah, but I disagree with him.
Well, I thought for me it was a very helpful piece in
Yeah.
my healing from homosexuality.
Yeah.
Speak to that. Why we differ?
Okay. Now, you're talking about yourself?
Yes.
So you think your injury came from just peers?
Well, no. He says.
I know, yeah.
He says, overbearing mother, a distant father does not homosexual make.
Right.
He says one of the predominant factors is
Peer rejection.
Peer rejection. And I would say that was very close to and similar to and explained very well my struggle
Of course.
with that.
Of course. Good. Because peer rejection happens at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where you had more consciousness. But do you have a fond memory of your relationship with your father?
Vaguely, no.
Vaguely, no. Thank you. Next. You understand? No, I mean, this is amazing because I do this all the time. I give the conference, and I know this is like a guy raised up, Dr. Nicolosi, I'm gay, and I had a great relationship with my father. Oh, really? Give me a memory. Well, he accepted me when I came out. Yeah, because he didn't care. He accepted you. They have no memory. They have no memory. I'll give you an example. Why it goes back to the parents. I had a colleague of mine who does reparative therapy, who should know better, came up to me and says, Joe, he says, you know, there's a contradiction in your theory. I have a client who had a great relationship with his father, but his problem was with the peers. Oh, really? Tell me more. Well, this client would come, he would get beat up in school, the kids would harass him, and he'd come home and he'd tell his father, and the father was very sympathetic, and he was crying to his father, and then the father would cry too, and the two of them were crying. Right? Well, I mean, if you're crying and your father cries, then we're both victims, right? So the father is perceived as weak. What would you do if your son came, come on, I'll teach you self-defense, let's go to the school, let's see what we got to do, let's be proactive. You say, their fathers are absent. I don't know how many fathers are sitting here, but there's absence. Okay. And you're more accepting of your son?
Of all my children?
Yeah.
In general, I would project myself as leaning toward being their friend rather than...
Right. Okay. Now, are you saying that you have a gay son?
Actually, yes.
Well, I mean, you set it up that way, so I just assumed, you know. I mean, I'm not, I just thought that was implied in what you're saying.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't implied. Okay. But if you had a gay son, I would turn to him and say, what's your memories of your father? Because I've done this. I've had fathers come in and say, look, I've been a great father. I don't know what the problem. And the kid says, no, you weren't, Dad. What do you mean, no, I wasn't? And for the first time, it comes out. Dad, you weren't there for this. Dad, you never did this. Dad, you never did that. And the father's like, oh, is that important? Yes, it was important. So you got to see his perception See, that's what really does the damage. The child's perception of the father. That's what's important. Yeah. There.
Series of books that have come out
Yeah.
in the last few years. That's slightly off to the side. The Shades of Grey, all of that. The sadomasochism, the
More nuts, more craziness of the culture. More nutsiness of the culture.
Do you have any take on that, though?
Yeah, there's more, yeah. Yeah, because it's just a sick culture, and anything that's weird that people are going to go into, all right? But basically there is more exotic sexual practices in the gay population compared to the heterosexual population, which is not to say that every heterosexual is a perfect example of healthy sexuality, but there are issues there too. And if you have a heterosexual who's into kinky sex, you have to look at his relationship with the opposite sex parent. If it's a guy who is into inflicting pain or whatever the fantasy is, look at his relationship to his mother. That's simply that.
I mean, does something happen where you're learning about love and then get pain?
Exactly. Pain equals, I'm working with a guy again Thursday. Today is what, Friday night? Thursday night, last night. His fantasy is being abused, physically abused. And he said to me, I'd rather be abused than to be ignored. And that's true. Because remember, for a child, to be ignored is annihilation. To be ignored is to not be seen. You're non-existent. That feels like what we call abandonment annihilation. That's the worst. So getting negative behavior, negative response is better. At least I feel alive. At least I feel connected. Yeah. But also there's a fear built in which gets eroticized. See, it's a strange part of human sexuality that fear can up the sexual charge, and that gets very addictive. That's why you see more of that kind of behavior.